What's going on, guys? Hope everybody's having a great day. Do me a favor, hit that like button. If you get anything from the content, consider subscribing. I really would appreciate it. It helps out a lot. Also, if you'd like to support the channel or pick up some merch, I'll have a link in the description. Go check it out. Let's jump into the video. So while I've been watching the Alex Murdaugh trial, it's really brought me back to Bryan Kohberger, right? These cases are similar in a lot of ways, as they're basically circumstantial cases. In the Alex Murdaugh trial, there's zero direct evidence tying him to the murders of his wife and son, right? In Bryan Kohberger, we have touch DNA on a knife sheet. We don't know how that touch DNA is going to hold up, how it's going to be disputed, what could be said. Because all that touch DNA does is say that Bryan Kohberger at some point or another touched that knife sheet. It doesn't say that he directly used the knife that came in it to murder the 4 college students, right? Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, it's obvious. It doesn't matter if it's obvious. In the United States court system, you have to prove somebody guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. The reason it's that way is because it's better to have a guilty man walking free than an innocent man behind bars. You have to agree with that, right? Just because somebody committed a crime, and it seems obvious they committed that crime, if you can't prove it beyond any reasonable doubt, then they get to walk. Now, beyond any reasonable doubt, let's go over that, because a lot of people get confused. Just because you can see a scenario where, hey, he did it, right? It looks like he did it. If he did this and this and this, then he probably did it. That's not beyond a reasonable doubt, people. Maybe in your mind, but you have to convince 12 jurors that there was absolutely no other possibility of the circumstances that happened based on your circumstantial evidence. Now, the prosecutors in the Alex Murdaugh trial, I don't really know if they're doing a great job of that. Number one, because I feel like they got their motive wrong. He didn't have life insurance on him, so he wasn't going to financially gain from killing them that way. If his play was to get sympathy, to buy him time, he had that with his father going into the hospital to die that same day. It just doesn't make sense. Their motive doesn't make sense. Now, I believe Alex Murdaugh probably did it, just like I believe Bryan Kohberger probably did it. But it's not about what I believe. It's about what they can prove. And when you can't prove something, they get to walk free. Like I said, better to have a guilty man walking the streets than an innocent man behind bars, right? If you have direct evidence, then you have evidence directly tying this person to a crime. You present that to a jury, that's that, right? They can make their choice from there, but it is pretty clear. In a circumstantial case, that's not the way it goes. You have to go through all the circumstantial evidence. And at the end of your case, you have to prove beyond any reasonable doubt that this is the way it happened, that it couldn't have happened another way, that somebody else couldn't have done it, right? Reasonably. Reasonably. That's the key word there. Now, of course, you could say, well, Putin could have sent a super spy from Russia to come in and kill these 4 college students to frame Bryan. Of course, right? Of course. That's not reasonable, though. Reasonable would be he left his house at this time and he went down to a friend's house and was hanging out there. His phone had died, so when he finally got his phone to come back on in the car, the phone picked back up, hit another cell tower, and he was on the other side of town. That would be reasonable, right? I'm not saying that's what it was. I'm just saying that's an example of a reasonable doubt. So what the prosecution is going to have to do if they want to convict Bryan Kohberger or Alex Murdaugh for that example is they're going to have to get rid of any of that reasonable doubt. They're going to have to use the information they have to paint a picture so clear that there's no chance anybody else did it. Because we can't convict people because we feel like they did it. We can't convict people because common sense says they did it. We only convict people because the evidence says they did it, or because they say themselves that they did it. There is no other way. If you believe that you should be able to convict somebody of a crime when you can't prove that they committed that crime, then we are not the same. I can't be with you on that, even if I feel like this person is guilty. For example, let's talk about O.J. Simpson, right? Everybody can see that what happened there. It's obvious what happened there. He runs from the police. He's driving down the road. He won't pull over. Everybody knows O.J. Simpson did what he was accused of doing, right? It's common knowledge. It's not even debated anymore. Just O.J. Simpson did it, and he got away with it. But they could not prove beyond any reasonable doubt that he did it, so he got to walk. If the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. With that glove, it brought in that reasonable doubt that he couldn't fit that glove, so whoever was using that glove couldn't have been him, right? It gives reasonable doubt. If Bryan Kohberger can come up with one alibi, one little thing to throw a wrench into the gears of their case, he could beat it because there's no direct evidence tying him to it other than that DNA on that sheath. But once again, that DNA on that sheath doesn't say directly that he killed these 4 students. What that DNA says is that he has had contact with that sheath before. The phone pings do not say that he went to their house. The phone pings say he went in the direction he would go if he was headed to their house, and then his phone did not hit another tower until after the murders took place. And now his phone's back on. Could have died, right? There's a reasonable doubt there. He was in the area 12 times before the murders. A lot of people look at that like he was stalking them out. He was watching, right? He was coming through making his plan. But that's a guess. That's an assumption. We don't know that for sure. If you don't know that for sure, it's not beyond a reasonable doubt, is it? And a lot of you are going to get mad at me for saying that you can't prove it beyond any reasonable doubt. But that is the law. That's the way it's set up. That's the way it's written. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you cannot prove it beyond that reasonable doubt, you can't convict that person. Totality of the circumstance has to mean that it's beyond any reasonable doubt that it happened any other way. Do you see that in the Idaho 4 case so far? That's why they let them extend it 6 months. Because they want to make sure that they make their case before they get into court, because they don't have it yet. They've got a faulty witness, a witness that supposedly saw this man in her home, saw him all dressed in black, wearing a mask, had to be carrying a knife, did he not? Because he didn't have a sheath anymore, and walked out the house. Now, this is after she heard all these little noises, right? All these little, oh, this girl was crying. Oh, I heard a guy say, it's okay, I'm here to help. Now we know that Ethan was found in the doorway of the bedroom, so he wasn't asleep, was he? We already knew Xana wasn't asleep. They're not making any noise while they're being murdered, and they're awake on the same floor as Dylan was. She didn't hear none of that. She just heard, it's okay, I'm here to help. That's all she heard. She didn't hear a scuffle, a fight. She didn't hear it. That makes no sense. The defense, they're going to destroy that. That's going to give them their reasonable doubt right there. That they're going to paint the picture that Dylan had something to do with this, or that Dylan's trying to frame Bryan for it. Something, right? We don't know what their case will be. We don't know what the prosecution has in its entirety. But if you want a conviction, you better hope they have a lot more than what we've seen so far. Because right now, the totality of the circumstance does not equal a guilty verdict. At least in my opinion. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel to see more, hit that notification bell so you'll get notified anytime I post. Have a great day. We'll see you later.